Hello, it's me, Sion, and I'm back with another YouTube video. Earlier today, I was on social media and I seen this horrifying image of children in Palestine who survived the bombing, and it was really sad. It was just really sad. I felt for those kids, and I just can't even imagine how confused and scared they must be. And seeing that really made me sit back and really think about the type of world that we live in, and what's going on and things like that. And I'm just trying to gather the words to say about it, because I don't want to be silent about it, but ultimately I'm really disturbed about what's happening in Palestine, and the fact that innocent people even have to die and experience such a monstrosity like war and bombing. And it's just really sad. It just makes me rethink the type of world that we live in. What is this existence? And I try not to get too sad about it, because I saw something, I was watching this other YouTuber, and he said that at times the world has to be clearly and obviously dysfunctional for us to realize that change needs to be made. I just thought that was interesting, but I think it's sad that it's at the cost of people's lives. It's just it just makes me wonder, what is it gonna take for us to actually make a change? And I see a lot of spiritual influencers saying that we're shifting into a new earth, and we're shifting into a new level of consciousness and things like that. And maybe that's the reason why the dysfunctional aspects of the world have been coming up to the surface and showing itself so apparently. At least to me, I feel like the wicked ways of the world have just been, and the ugliness of the world has just been showing itself so clearly within my life and my perspective. And one of the hardest things for me, I think, is to hold on to not focus on the negative aspects of our world and focus on the positive, things that I can do to actually improve this experience, using my voice to spread, to spread awareness. But I don't want this video to be negative, but I truly do believe that sometimes the experience of living on earth is hellish. It can be that sometimes. And on the flip side, it can also be a very beautiful experience in many different ways. But unfortunately, inevitably, people do suffer. And as a collective consciousness, it's I feel like the suffering of others is a part of my suffering, and I don't, it's not that I'm like claiming that as a negative thing. I feel like that's just a reality. Like what's happening in Palestine is like so awful, and the fact that these things can happen and innocent children can be killed, it's just like makes me wonder like what type of world do we live in. And I think about like my ancestors and what they went through and how that was allowed to happen, how awful of a monstrosity that was. And not to go back to the past and dwell in it, but just to acknowledge that struggle. I'm just like, the fact that that was even allowed to happen, it just makes me wonder. Like, it makes me wonder about this existence and like what does it mean and why is this suffering so immense sometimes. But ultimately, no matter how long it lasts, even if it lasts an entire lifetime, it is temporary, which is like true. Like no pain is forever, as Rihanna says. And I think that that's like the positive part of it all, that like um it's not forever, it's not everlasting. And yeah, so like I don't know, I came on this video because I feel like I had a lot to express, and so I'm just like expressing a lot of what's on my mind. But I was watching a video earlier today, and it was talking about how our souls are like, our we as spiritual beings are like, our DNA, our spiritual DNA is like flawless. Like, it's, I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm quoting him right, but he was saying like who we are as a spirit is like flawless. Like, there's no flaws. A lot of the times we feel bad about ourselves and we go through like this feeling of feeling inadequate and feeling like we're not good enough. And like, I think it's important to remember that we live in a very dysfunctional society. Like, we live in a very dysfunctional world. Like, innocent children are being bombed and killed in our world. There are people starving, resources are being stolen in Africa, bombings in Africa. I mean, war for resources that we currently use here in America are resulting in wars in Africa. And not to mention, like, just aside from third world issues, like, just in America, like, there are tons of injustices. Like, the fact that Black people have yet to receive any type of reparations for slavery is like very awful. Like, I don't feel like, just that fact alone is like not right. Like, and I really want to talk about that. Like, Black people have literally built America for free, suffered as a result of it, against our will, and whether you feel like it was a choice or not, it happened and it was wrong. And we have gotten nothing in return. There's actually, we've actually continuously been disrespected as human beings in America, continuously, after the slavery ended as well. And so the mistreatment continued after that. And it's like, Black people, we don't really get our appreciation. We don't get a thanks. We don't get any type of appreciation for, one, building this country, two, heavily influencing the culture of this country. And I feel like our struggle as a people isn't really acknowledged. Like, many people will take our struggle and then try to make it seem like our struggle as Black Americans is an excuse that we're using to be victims. And it just completely dismisses the fact of the matter that pain and pain and injustice was inflicted onto our race, and it was wrong, and we're affected by that. And there has been nothing done to help us recover from it. We've had to do it completely by ourselves, completely on our own, with no type of help or anything. And I feel like Black people have given so much of themselves historically to America, and for the benefit of white people, and we've gotten very little benefit, like the bare minimum, which is human rights and education and things like that. But, and like, all of that is okay. Like, I'm glad that I'm not a slave. The sacrifice that my ancestors have made, I think it's just sad that like the future generation from that sacrifice is still experiencing, it's like nothing has come out of the sacrifice. And I don't want to say nothing, but it's like, I feel like the bare minimum has come out of the sacrifice, which is we get to live in America as free human beings with rights and things like that, which is something that we should have had from the start. There shouldn't have been a period of time where we had those things taken away from us. And the fact that it did happen, along with other even worse things, like, well, I'm not gonna get into it. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but overall my main point is the fact that Black people haven't received reparations and will probably like never receive them is like, I don't know, I feel like my ancestors are like turning in their graves just knowing that, like, knowing that to be true. And so yeah, another thing that I feel like is happening in our society, I feel like the more that people are able to, the more that people are able to climb their way up the financial ladder and achieve and experience financial freedom, the more the government will make it harder for the lower class or like middle class or just any regular person in general to live, to have basic needs. Okay, let me say that again. the more that the people achieve financial freedom, the harder the government will make it to have basic needs. So, yes, and that's what I feel. I feel like that's what the government is doing right now. Like, with all of this inflation and with the housing crisis, the fact that it's so hard to find an apartment at a reasonable price, and the fact that it's becoming harder and harder for poor people to achieve their receive their basic needs. I feel like because I feel like through the pandemic, people had a lot of time to themselves. They were given money and resources, and so a lot of people started their own businesses and invested in themselves and became and achieved financial freedom. And it's a little bit easier to achieve financial freedom in today's day and age, or um, at some point it was. And I think that because of that, the government has made it harder for people to get their basic needs met. Because freedom, to me, I don't think the government wants the people to have freedom and have like financial freedom. I think it's a threat for the people to achieve things that will contribute to their happiness, because capitalism, well, for one, it was built on slavery, so like it requires a group of people to slave away. It requires someone to do the labor, the dirty work, while the people at the top do less work and enjoy the financial freedom. And because information is more accessible to everyone, and everyone has more people have access to how to achieve financial freedom, I think that the government has to make it harder for the experience of just living as a regular person, make it harder. And yeah, I feel like a true leader would be against that. Like, I feel like a true leader would do anything they could to make sure inflation doesn't get too high so that the people could afford their basic needs. But that's not what the leaders are doing. Instead, we're funding a war while people are struggling just to buy food, because food is super expensive, and people are struggling to pay their student loans and things like that. It's just like, I don't know. It's a very messed up world we live in. And it's hard to be a light and a positive influence and maintain a positive attitude when you see all that's going wrong. And I just want to point that out. Like, and I want to inspire the younger generations. Like, I hope that some young people watch this video, or like watch my videos, and like kind of just realize that like there's a lot wrong with the world. And I'm not saying dwell on it and let it get you down, and don't let it paralyze you, but just use your voice and use your voice for one, and then also choose to be a positive influence and a positive light in the world, because there's enough negativity and bad in the world. Use your energy to be a positive light in the world, because we need it. Like, we need it. Seriously, we need more people promoting and bringing positivity into the world, because there's enough negativity. And I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching.